Welcome to the Book Club, the show that spotlights undiscovered authors and their books. Here's your host, John Austin.
Thanks, Lee, and today we have two terrific books and two terrific authors new to the book club. We begin this morning with a novel for all ages, an exciting cross-country chase adventure. The book is Carbon, and the talented young author is Carrie Yonge. Carrie Yonge was born and raised in Ocala, Florida. She's a graduate of the University of Florida with a degree in political science and a minor in the Arabic language. She works training horses for a variety of disciplines, and she is here with us today. So welcome to the book club, Carrie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're delighted to have you. I'm going to ask you this question. How old are you?
I'm 23.
23. You write extremely well. And I always want to start with a synopsis of Carbon, which when I first heard about this, it was kind of billed as a young adult title, and it certainly will do that. But this is a very good book for adults, young adults, adults of all ages. So anyway, give us a brief, if you will, synopsis of Carbon.
We follow the story of a young girl named Elise who has been raised in the foster system. She's never met her family. And one day she receives a mysterious phone call, which really changes her life from normal to crazy. The woman, whose name is Carbon, claims to be her protector, sent by her father, whom she can't remember anything about. And when she realizes that she's being chased by FBI and law enforcement as they run across the country, she struggles to justify trust in a man that she can't remember. The synopsis goes, with unknowns on every side, will her faith be misplaced, or can she safely navigate the treacherous tales surrounding her identity and keep from falling into the wrong hands? Okay,
that's a lot that's on the back cover. And when I read the back, I actually read it to my wife. I said, this is one of the best synopsis of a book.
Oh, thank you. I actually struggled developing that.
Well, it was really good. I started, I think, if you picked that book up in the store and read that back cover, you would want to buy the book. Okay, let's. I want to start with the protagonist. Elise. Let's talk a little bit about her.
All right. Elise, she's 16, as we said. She's been raised in the foster system. She has some friends. She's not an unstable girl, but she's not real grounded. She doesn't have a family. She doesn't really know who she is. She's a not unusual protagonist in that she doesn't have a clear set of goals. She's not like a true heroine in that she's perfect and goes after a certain goal that she has in life. She's kind of tossed about and trying to find her way in the story. Okay.
And the book really opens with a birthday, a computer, and a black car.
Yeah, we meet Elise in the hometown of Mesa Springs, where she's been for 2 years. She really likes it. She has friends who are an older couple who are very kind to her, and a friend named Nia who's in her class. And she's just going about daily life. We open up with, it's her birthday. They give her a computer, and she's touched by the gift. She's never had a family. And one day she finds a cell phone by the side of the road, and it rings at night. She's going to return it to the police station or somewhere, and a woman contacts her, claiming to know her father, saying she's in danger, and she should not go to anyone, including law enforcement, because she's not safe, and that she'd be contacted further. So that kind of ruins her normal life that's been going on for 2 years.
Okay, but it starts to get exciting.
Yes, it does.
Okay, I was going to mention Nia, who is her best friend. Right, okay.
Nia's her friend. She's very grateful for Nia because she's been kind of tossed around and moved around, and Nia's a very, like an anchor for her, a close friend whom she can really trust. She doesn't have a lot of friends, but she has one good one, and that's Nia.
Okay, Nia doesn't have a big part in the book, but she does come into play towards the end, and actually it turns out to be a big part. Okay, or at least a big incident. Okay, now, as you mentioned, there was this phone, and she got the phone call warning, and then all of a sudden, the men from the state show up.
Yes, as when she got the phone call from Carbon, she warned her that people would come from the state and try to move her and not to go. So she decided to follow the advice because she really wasn't sure, and she would like to meet her father. But yes, the men show up from school, and she's sent to the office to meet with them, and instead she elects to call Carbon on the phone that she had found. And from there, she's chased, and she leaps into the car and blacks out, and then things really turn strange for her.
Okay, because now we're going to meet Carbon.
Yes, now we meet Carbon, whom at this point, no one really knows, but she's actually just artificial intelligence integrated into the car.
Right.
But Elise is quite surprised when she regains consciousness by herself in a car that's moving. And as we travel from there, she's quite confused as to who it is who is actually looking for her. She finds that the police are chasing them. After the story involved in some police chases, the car will not pull over. and she gets a video from her father.
Okay.
But she's not sure who to trust because he's not actually there.
Right.
And in the video, he says pretty much, just trust me. Your life is in danger. I built Carbon to protect you. And so that's really all she has to go on.
You know what's interesting? 2 months ago, a year ago, you talk about a car that's driving itself and would be totally impossible. Now, actually, they do.
Yeah, they're
right?
pretty close.
So if you folks are looking for a car that drives itself, you better read Carbon. Anyway, okay. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about was the videos, and they're off to Montana for some reason. I have a question for, why did you pick Montana? I mean,
it is an empty place. It's very beautiful, and if you're running away from the law, a vacant place is a good place to go.
Okay. You sound like you might know that, and I'm not going to ask.
Yes, don't. I'm just kidding.
Okay. No, I don't. Okay. Now her father has a list of dangerous people. Yes.
The car provides her with this list, which has photographs and things, and Elise looks through them at first just kind of flippantly, and she notes that there's a doctor, Rayford, who's very high up on the list, very dangerous, that she's supposed to avoid. The list is helpful, but she's frustrated again because she has a list, but no reasons why she's supposed to avoid these people.
Right. Okay. And then we meet Sergeant Reyes and the FBI.
Right. Sergeant Reyes is the police sergeant in her hometown, Mesa Springs, and in that whole town, it's a very small town, a tight-knit community. They all know Elise, and she's not a problem child, and the FBI and the state has this tale that she's run away from home, and that just doesn't make sense to him, and interviewing her family, and this is just not lining up. So he's investigating, and he's annoyed that the federal authorities are in his hometown, and he's been kicked off of the case, so to speak. And so we kind of follow his frustrations. We start to see that something's not quite lining up in this case. The FBI are after her, but we're not sure why.
Right.
So kind of leaves us.
Okay. And the chase actually begins, and there is actually a close call for Carbon and Elise in Illinois.
Mm-hmm. They're running through with the police chase, and that's where Elise demands that she pulls over, but they do not. And then they get to Gad City, which was in Iowa, a bit later. And by this point, Elise is scared because now she knows the police are after her. And she figures that, well, if her dad is a criminal with police chasing him that much, that maybe she doesn't really want to meet him. And she realizes that she doesn't know him. She doesn't know who he is, why he wants her, what's going on. And she decides that she'd rather not live life as a criminal, and she would rather talk to the law. Carbon won't allow her to leave or do anything. So she plans that at a restroom break, when they're taking on their trip to Montana, that she's going to try to run away from the car and try to contact the police and figure out what's going on.
And actually she does. She calls 911 when they're in Iowa.
Yeah, she does. She goes to a restaurant and asks the waitress for a landline to call the police because she figures her cell phone would probably be blocked by the car.
Right.
And she does this. She calls 911.
Okay. And actually now there's a case. They're in prison. They go to a prison, and then she's kidnapped, but by the FBI.
Yeah, there's two agents who come in to interrogate her, and she recognizes one of the women from her dad's dangerous list, an Agent Finmore, and she's a little worried. And then when she's in the secure place, this prison, it was the closest place, they break her out of the prison, actually. And a bit later in the book, the other FBI agents are coming looking for her, and they don't know what happened either. So we realize there's a division within the FBI itself.
Okay. And actually, as you read the book, you really are not sure what's happening. And Elise is totally
Elise
confused.
is totally lost. She's after they break her out of the prison, she's not really happy because they took her by force, and now she's really wishing she stayed with Carbon, but it's too late for her to change her mind.
Okay. But then there is an automobile accident.
Yes, there is.
And there is an escape.
Yes, she had given up, but Carbon had been tracking her, even though she had given some details of Carbon, and the police had put a APB out on the car and been looking for it. But the car was able to track her, and not too long after they left the prison with her two captors, she crashed into the vehicle because she's reinforced,
right?
and managed to knock the first two people unconscious, and Elise was able to get out relatively unharmed.
Okay, and then they're off on the road again to Montana.
And they're on the road again.
Okay, there's some terrific points in here and incidents in here. Now they know that this car, they've got a description of the car, and they're looking for this black car. So they decide they need to get a paint job, and they end up with two yokels. We'll talk about in a minute, but and they agree to race these people for a paint job.
Yes, they pull up to a stoplight, and Elise, who's not quite happy at this, a street racing gentleman, pulls beside her, and Carbon offers to race with him using her voice, and she's not really happy about this at first, but Carbon explains her plan of getting a paint job because their progress getting towards Montana is slow and their chances aren't good because there's so many police looking for them right now.
Okay, it's funny in the book. I mean, it's the car. There's nobody in the car, but they have some kind of a cardboard thing and a silhouette or something, and people who see this car assume that there is a woman driving.
Yeah, there's a hologram when it's usually on it.
Right. Okay, we're talking to Carrie Yonge about her adventure novel Carbon. Okay, so now the FBI thinks, for a number of different reasons, that Carbon is a dark-haired woman.
Right. They assume she is the description of her hologram, which the police officer or the sheriff deputy who got Elise when she called 911 saw the car and the hologram in it and assumed, and Elise also gave the description of the hologram. She did not tell anyone that Carbon is actually a car, probably just because it'd be hard to explain and she doesn't feel like it. But so that's kind of, no one really knows that she is a car. They think she's the driver of this car they're looking for.
Okay. A cell phone that explodes, and then Elise ends up with a gun.
Yeah, Agent Stewart, who was with the team of FBI that were in her hometown investigating in Mesa Springs, he ends up coming to the prison. They were the FBI that were going to meet with her before the other agents took her by force. And he finds her cell phone in the evidence department that the police had taken from her when they took her in to be questioned. And it explodes, though.
Right.
It has a remote detonator. He's very frustrated because he finally had a lead on this Carbon and what was going on. And now they don't have the girl anymore. The cell phone explodes. He has nothing. So he's very frustrated.
Okay. But they have, because they've had this wreck, and the car that was run into has been basically
demolished.
They
don't know what happened to it.
So they have now this theory that she's driving an armored car.
Right. They know it doesn't make quite sense, but something hit the car and it wasn't a missile, so they're confused.
Okay. All right. Now we get to the race.
Yes.
Okay. And I don't know I guess we have to give it away who wins the race.
It's a good scene.
It is a terrific scene, and there's actually paint job, and now Carbon is white.
Yes, she is. She gets a paint job turned white, the most common car color.
Okay. Now, there's a character who comes in here now, and we meet him as Officer Hitchens, but it's not the real Officer Hitchens. The real Officer Hitchens is dead, and this guy's name really is Larry Thompson.
Right, and we're not sure who he is or why he's after Elise, but we're sure that he's probably not good. He was going to meet the two FBI agents who broke her out of the prison, but when Carbon intercepted Elise from them, he was kind of lost, and he didn't get the handoff like he wanted. And we follow him as he's tracing where Carbon went to and trying to find the girl.
Okay. All right. This really doesn't have much to do with the story, but the listeners always love the animals and stuff. So we do meet at this point Mrs. Morgan and Muffin. Yes.
Mrs. Morgan is the mother of James, who is the friendly man that Elise street raced.
Right.
And yes, she has a little dog named Muffin who greets Elise when she wakes up after staying at their house during the night, and very grateful not to be in a car anymore. But yes, this is just a very happy little dog that
right, and it's nice. It's a very thing. Yeah, and I want to talk now about Frank and James, who were not the brightest bulbs.
No, especially James.
Right,
he's been around the block.
But actually, after they're not sure. They have this deal that they're going to paint the car, and they're not sure after they win whether they're going to actually paint it, but they do. In fact,
they
these
actually
guys
prove to be pretty honorable.
People after, okay. All right. Now we have another car chase at that point, and there's another video from Elise's father imploring her not to believe what they say, but she doesn't even know who he's talking about and what they're saying.
She doesn't. All she knows is when she was in the prison before the two agents broke her out, they briefly mentioned that her father was facing charges of espionage, fraud, and even treason and murder. And she was puzzled, but she doesn't know if this is true, if they're really FBI. Now that they broke her out, she's confused. But now he said, don't believe what they tell you. But at the same time, he has not told her anything, like what's actually happening, so she doesn't know what to believe.
Okay. All right. And this is where Nia comes back into the story, because she's not supposed to contact anybody.
Right.
But
dangerous.
But she decides that she is going to call Nia, and that kind of. But so she
gets kind of fed up with being alone and in a car and running from people all the time, and she wants to talk to just a familiar voice, and she does call Nia in the end, and they have just a brief conversation. She doesn't reveal any details about where she is, but
okay. Now there's at this point, Elise is captured.
Yes, she is. After they're driving, they get on a cliff. For some reason, Carbon cannot detect the people above. They're cornered. There aren't any options to proceed except to allow Elise to be taken. Carbon says, I will come back for you, but you have to go with him now or you'll probably be killed. So Elise is captured at this point. Okay.
In the book, there's really no killings. There's a reference to, I guess, the killing of the one police officer, Hitchens. But at this point, there are 2 killings.
Yes, there are.
Yeah, okay.
It's a bit of a change. Actually, I wasn't sure when I put that part in the book, but I just seemed like I couldn't change it. It just seems a part that seemed to write itself into the book, and so I left it there.
Okay. I'm going to, when we finish, I'm going to talk, and I'm going to make sure I have enough time to talk to you because there's a number of things that I want to ask you about, and that's how the book was written. And I know this is the part of a trilogy, the first book of a trilogy. Okay. Now, there's another kind of big twist where Carbon actually picks up Deputy Lawson.
Yeah, she does. She's looking for help as Lawson asks her, so you just need another biped to walk around and pick the girl up for you? And she responds honestly, yes, I do. And he's not so happy about this, but their meeting is a very humorous event. Unfortunate for Lawson, but...
Okay. I was going to wait until after you, but there's, I thought, a very, very funny part where Lawson is also, they grab Lawson, and he's trying to warn,
yes.
And he's talking to his Aunt Jemima.
Yeah, Lawson's a great character, and when he's captured, his thoughts, he wants to be a macho hero type. At the same time, he doesn't really want to suffer for it, and he is captured in the service of Carbon, and yes, he makes a call to his Aunt Jemima, who answers, so to his surprise, actually. It's pretty funny.
Okay. All right. Now, you mentioned Dr. Rayford, and who was on the list.
Mm-hmm.
And
he was the top.
Right. And now, actually, Elise
meets him, and
right.
She's very surprised because when she wakes up after being captured, she's in a nice house. There's no one watching her. She has clothes. It's a nice place. It's secluded. She doesn't know where she is, but it's very nice. This British gentleman, whom she recognizes from the list, meets her and explains to her that if she needs anything or just to rest, that she's okay. And she's surprised because she was expecting an evil, diabolical person who's going to threaten her, and she doesn't know what to make of it for a while. And he feeds her and takes good care of her. She's confused, but eventually she asks him, and he tells her, I worked with your father. And he begins to tell her more and show her articles from the New York Times and other newspapers and articles about her father facing these charges just like the FBI agents had told her. So now she's even more confused.
Okay. All right. And this is when actually these things that he tells her not to, the father in the videos has said, don't believe what they say.
Right.
Now they're saying these things.
Right. Now she realized what he meant, these
right.
charges. But she says, it was the New York Times, something's wrong.
Right. Okay. Well, I want to end the plot here, but there's a whole lot of action and twists still ahead. So tell us how they can buy the book.
You can buy the book. We have a website. It's carbonthebook.com. And also it's available on the Kindle and the Nook. It's only $1 right now. So it's an ebook, and then you can buy it through the website also. Okay.
I want to talk about you for a few minutes here because I don't know what your IQ is, but it's got to be enormous. I mean, you are very, very bright.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And this book actually was a surprise to me. I was expecting something different, and I got so wrapped up in this thing that I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm not a young adult. Anyway.
It's a lot of fun.
Okay. How did this come about?
Actually, that's interesting because, as you know, I'm a political science major when I graduated with my degree, and that never intended to write, never intended to be an author. But as I was commuting between Ocala and Gainesville, it's about an hour drive, these characters' names were just in my head, and they were actually annoying me. And so finally I sat and started writing the story that was just in my mind, and I prayed about it and gave it to my family members, and my mom's a very critical reader. I write her author comments and critiques, and they're scary. So I was very hesitant to hand it to her, but she read it, and I hid in my room, and she came and found me and was like, wow, this is this is really good. You should keep writing. And I did. And I had lots of friends and family to encourage me and read it and help me with that along the way. But it kind of just formed itself, and it's a very special story to me.
Okay, well, that was the next question, and you don't have to talk about this if you don't want, but it is allegorical.
Yes, it is. It is. To me, there's a much deeper meaning you can read into it, especially as we get into the second one. It's actually a trilogy. I just finished the second one, though it's in editing now. It'll probably be available in a month or so. But yes, it does. It has a deeper meaning, and if you read it, it's not that hard to find. Okay.
Well, let's talk for a minute about the second book. The book is finished.
The book is finished. I just finished it a few weeks ago. It's called Carbon 2 Redemption. It goes a little deeper. Then the first one is more action and just fun, but the second one is deeper. It goes into the characters, and you find out more of the conspiracy and what's going on.
Okay. They can't buy that one right now.
Not yet. Available in a month or so.
Okay. And then the third one.
The third one is going to be called Carbon 3 Revelation, and that will be the final book. I have not started writing it yet, but
you have an idea.
I have an idea of what it's going to be. Yeah.
Okay. The thing you talk about with the characters is very interesting to me. One of the first people we had on the program, and this is like 2 years ago, was a police officer, and he came in to the studio to do it, and his girlfriend was with him, and we got through the interview, and then afterwards he started talking about the characters, and the girlfriend said, he drives me crazy because he wakes up in the middle of the night and he says the characters are talking to him. Now, I have the feeling that you went through the same kind of thing.
Yeah, there's sometimes you wake up and I would just have this scene in my head and I had to write it. I would just get a pen and a paper or my computer and just start writing because it was just playing out in my mind, and these characters and what they said just poured out into the page. I didn't really preconceive or think about much of what I wrote in this book. It really just poured out from my fingers as I sat at a computer.
Okay. The characters themselves, how did you, are those people you know? Or
actually, they're not. Loosely, maybe. Annalise has a lot of characteristics of me. She is very different from me in many ways, but a lot of my own struggles and doubts are in her character.
Okay. But the others just came out of your imagination?
They really did.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And in the characters continue through the next two books?
Yes, most of the characters are still in the second book, especially Carbon, Lost, and Elise, and some new characters we find are the main ones.
When did you start writing?
I wrote this book. I finished it December 2010. I started it probably May of that year.
Okay. Was this the first thing you've ever written?
Yes, it was. I'd written a few short stories in middle school and just for myself, but never done anything with them.
And what drew you to this? I mean, you just decided, hey, I have to write?
Yeah, the story was in my mind. I needed to write it down, so I did.
Okay. It's very interesting. I really want to tell the listeners that this is one of the most entertaining books that I have read in a long time. And when I was done with it, I mean, it obviously set up for a sequel because, I mean, it doesn't end where it's supposed to end.
No, it doesn't. I would be mad if I wrote it.
Right. No, so you just scream that, man, I've got to read the rest of it. But I love chase books anyway, chase stories anyway. And this is a really good one. And you write extremely well. So I'm sorry. Anyway, tell us again how they can buy the book and give us the website again.
The website is www.carbonthebook.com. And you can go there. We'll also have updates as to when Carbon 2 is available and how to purchase that. It's on the Kindle and the Nook as well.
Okay. And I want to give the spelling of your last name because it's a little different. It's Carrie Yonge, but it's spelled Yonge.
Yes.
Okay. And we have been talking to Carrie Yonge about her book for adults of all ages, Carbon. Now stay tuned for the rest of our program right after these messages.